Tarps. New tarps from TRC Outdoors. Let's have a look at them and I'll show you a few ways how you can set them up. Hello, welcome back to the channel. You join me today in these beautiful woods here at the bug out. Thanks for clicking on, thanks for taking the time out to tune in and click on the video. Yes, it's beautiful. We've had some nice weather the last few days. Sorry I haven't made any videos for a while. I've been a bit busy here at the campsite, in the shop, getting ready for the bushcraft show, a range of different things. Like I say, when I get a bit more free time, I'll make a few more videos.
How wonderful! I thought you died.
But today we're in the woods. I'm going to take a bit of opportunity now while we've got some nice weather. Rain's coming in a few hours. So I'll quickly get on and tell you about the new tarps from TRC Outdoors. The guys at TRC Outdoors, they make excellent kit. Veteran owned business, UK made. Already get the bank line off them, the jungle knots, tent pegs and a few other things off the guys at TRC. And every bit of kit they produce is top notch. And they're always developing and bringing out new kit. They've got the jungle loop lines, they've got the zip pods for organising your kit, and they've got these new tarps, all of which I'll be showcasing at the bushcraft show. So what I thought to do today, people are asking after my last video about shelters, which I think is there, about how I put my tarps up. Now I only use 3 or 4 different configurations for my tarps. Yes, I could show you any number of different tarp formations, your Adirondacks and whatnot, fully enclosed tarps, but I don't use them myself. So what's the point of showing you stuff I don't use myself? I'm just blagging it, aren't I, if I do that?
What are you trying to say?
So what I thought I'd do, we'll have a good look at these tarps, the 3x3s, and show you a few different configurations which I use myself. So the tarps, they come in MTP or green, olive green I suppose it is. And to give you a bit of a comparison of the DD, this is my DD 3x3, this is the TRC. Weight wise, they're about the same, not much in it. Size wise, they'd be about the same. This one's a little bit neater at the moment because I haven't used it. This one I've just rammed it right in the bag, and it would compress down more, if I tried. But the TRC one does come with this canoe sack. It's a dry bag. That way, if you are packing up your gear and it's a bit damp, put it in your dry sack or your canoe bag, and it keeps all your other gear nice and dry, doesn't it? And there's plenty of room in the bag if you want to put your cordage in here or tent pegs, whatever it is. Keep that nice and dry. I've put my glass on for this bit. There we are, you can see you now. So the tarps, they either come in a 30 or 70D ripstop polyester. And just like the DD tarps, they are PU coated as well.
This is fascinating. I can't wait to read it.
So what's that stand for? Polyurethane, is it? I don't know. PU coated, but unlike the DD, which is a 3000mm hydrostatic coating, the TRC Outdoors one is 5000. So a lot more protection from the elements. It also has 19 tie loops, each one reinforced, so that allows you to do multiple configurations. I think that's 16 around the edge and 3 then running through the middle. We'll take a look when we get out the bag. Plus, like I said before, it comes in this canoe bag or wet bag. So that's a little bit more about the tarp itself. We're using the MTP one today. So there we are at the bag. I'll just show you a bit of the loops. Ben and the lads here at TRC, veteran owned, and they really do make quality kit. You can just see that by the workmanship of your tie-up points, totally reinforced. And if you had TRC kit before, whether it's the bank line, the bush hats or the windproof shirts, trousers, you know yourself, it's always quality kit. So there we are, that's the new tarp, 3x3 tarp from TRC. I'll never fold that back now as it was before. So what I'll do now, with the TRC outdoor tarp and a few of the TRC jungle knots and lightweight pegs, we'll do a couple of configurations using the tarp, and the first one being the plough point. Right, so here we are. First thing you need for a plough point is some sort of tree. Now you can use a ridge line, or you can build yourself an A-frame using a couple of sticks, poles, but to keep it simple, we're going to use a tree. Always try and keep it simple, isn't it? Don't overcomplicate things. Now, you might notice when I'm filming this, I'm in my civvy gear today. Yeah, with some lovely salmon pink shorts on and some flip-flops.
You look stunning.
But the sun's out, innit? The sun's out, the legs are out. So if it does offend, please turn it off. My legs might be a bit white as well, so put some sunglasses on or something if they start to blind you.
White, smooth white legs.
So there's the warning before we get started. Right, plough point. First thing we need to do, unfold your tarp, isn't it? And find yourself the corner. So this corner then, we need to attach this to your tree. So I'm going to get some jungle knots to do that. Jungle knots. I've done some videos on these before, which is there. So here's my corner. So let's attach this to the tree. So you want to tie it around about as high as you can reach. Now you can go higher, obviously, it'll give you more headroom. If you go lower, it'll give you less headroom. But I found about this sort of height is about right, for me anyway. Right, that's the first step. Next step is get the opposite corner to this and peg it out. So once you've got your front corner suspended on the tree, or ridgeline or whatever you've got, get the opposite corner pegged down on the ground. And the next job is get the other two corners and peg them out. Now you've got them corners all attached. You pegged out your three corners. Got your top corner elevated on the tree. What I'm going to do now is get this middle loop, get a jungle knot on it, hook it up over the tree, and just give me a bit more headroom inside. There, just like that. Now as you can see, there's loads of room in this configuration, the plough point. Bags of room. You get 2 to 3 bods in here, no problem at all. And kit. Loads of headroom. What I would say, if you are putting this up, especially if it's windy, is obviously make sure the wind is blowing from the back. But I said, space-wise, there's loads of room for this configuration. Loads of room for your kit. And like I say, it's got a nice overhang at the front where you can do a bit of cooking with your stove. So that's the first configuration, the plough point. Very popular configuration for tarps. This time of year, it's perfect. You've got loads of ventilation coming in, got good head cover, and like I said, loads of room. Easy to put up, 3 pegs and a couple of lines, and that's it, job done. As long as you've got something to elevate your one corner. But like I said before, you can do that either with a ridgeline, with some sort of tree, or if you really had to, get yourself 2 poles, make an A-frame and peg off that. It's a little bit more complicated, but it can be done. But this plough point, yeah, I really like this configuration, and you can see why it's so popular. So that's the first one. The next one I'm going to do is a bog standard A-frame. Now A-frame, very easy to do. As the name suggests, you're making a frame or shape looking like an A, and I suppose it's the most traditional looking shelter. Now an A-frame, you can form it using a ridgeline or a couple of poles on each end, walking poles, something like that. But the first demonstration is with a ridgeline, so I'll get a ridgeline up first. How to tie knots for a ridgeline? Well, check that video out and you'll find out. So that's my first job, and I'll get the tarp and I'll hook it on the ridgeline and show you the A-frame shelter. Right, ridgeline's up between 2 trees. Now you could chuck this rail up your ridgeline if you're in a bit of a rush, peg it down on the sides, and you've got a shelter pretty quick. I'm not going to do that because you can, in heavy weather, get water running down the ridgeline underneath your tarp and then getting yourself wet inside. So what's the point of putting a tarp up if you're going to get wet that way, isn't it? So I'm going to suspend it underneath the line. So the first thing I want to do is find my tie out points which run down the centre of the tarp and make sure I get them lined up underneath the ridgeline. Now on my ridgeline I've got these little tiny loops and I tie a plastic knot. Over once, over twice. So you see that? If you want to see more, remember, check out the video on knots. Get myself a toggle stick, put that through the plastic loop. Hey presto, you've got your tarp hanging from your line. Right, now you have your tarp suspended from your ridge line. It's just a case of pegging out the sides. So there we have the simple A-frame using a ridge line. Now like I said, you could use poles. If you didn't have a ridge line, if you didn't have two suspension points, trees, whatever, you could use two poles on either end to get that traditional tent sort of shape, isn't it? So if you use a pole, walking pole, obviously you've got to tie it off with a peg to brace it on both ends, but it'll be much the same as this. The advantage of this, there's no poles in the way to get in and out. Again, you get 2 or 3 boards under there with your kit, but for one person there's loads of room. Downside, it's open both sides, so if there's a bit of a breeze you might want to use a plough point instead. But if it's a nice calm day like today, this configuration gives you loads of room inside and it's quick and easy to put up. So there we are, the simple A-frame. Right, so next one I'm going to show you, very similar to the last one, and that's a suspended A-frame. So all it is the ridge line is a lot higher up. So this is useful if you're hammock camping, or like during the day you need someone to sit out, do your cooking, bit of admin. You can string this ridge line up higher and have your A-frame off the ground. Just quickly show you that. So there we have the suspended A-frame. Just using your jungle knots or guidelines to tie them off at the bottom, or even bungees, shock cord, just to tie out the ends at the bottom. But you can set this at whatever height you need. So for a hammock, you can do this, give you overhead shelter, this or the diamond formation, or it's good for a daytime shelter where you need a bit of extra headroom if you're cooking under it or sitting under it. Plus, using this formation, you could raise the one end with a couple of poles. That will give you more room in the daytime, and if you want to cush down at night, you can just collapse them poles and then you've got your shelter again. So that's the suspended A-frame. Right, so next configuration, or next shelter, using the 3x3 tarp, is the lean-to. The most simplest shelter you can make. Now, just like a basher, you could just peg the back to the floor, come off at an angle, and then peg down on some poles or ridgeline at the front. That will give you a huge amount of space inside. But what I'm going to do with this one, because it's a 3x3 tarp, and you don't need all that space inside, I'm going to give myself a little bit of a ground sheet. So what I'm going to do, instead of pegging out the bottom, I'll peg out the middle of the tarp along the floor, bring the one end up and suspend it, either poles or ridgeline, and then the other half will be my ground sheet. Let's have a go with that. So there we have your basic lean-to. I've utilised the ridge line just to hang the top end of the tarp off, but you could just use poles, your walking poles on either end, guidelines, tie them down. But since the ridge line was already there from previous tarp formation, I thought I'd just utilise that, using a few bungees. And jungle knots. So yeah, still loads of room for 1-2 people, plus you've got your added ground sheet. Now if you just wanted to utilise the basic lean-to using a whole sheet, you could go so far up on an angle, and then the last bit you can come back down to give yourself a bit of shelter at the front. So that's it, that's the lean-to. Very quick and easy to set up, and it gives you good shelter. Just so I was saying that, the rain is starting to come, it's clouded over, and there's a few droplets in the air. So the one last shelter I want to show you is good for if the weather turns bad. And if you've got nowhere to pitch your tarp up, there's no trees, you could be an open moorland or some sort of meadow somewhere, there's no trees, no hanging points, the weather's taking a turn for worse and you need shelter pretty quick. So there's one last shelter I'm going to show you using the 3x3 tarp, and that's the tarp tent. So tarp tent, use this quite a few times, easy to do, easy to set up. You will need some sort of walking pole or stick, unless you're using a ridgeline, but I'm going to show you this time how to use it without a ridgeline. Like I say, if you're caught in an open ground somewhere. So the first thing you're going to do is set your tarp out on the ground as a square. When you're setting your tarp on the ground, make sure your central loops are running from front to back. So now you've got your tarp set up with your loops running down the centre, down the spine. What I do is just temporary peg out the four corners just to get it in that right shape. So I'll do that first. Now you don't have to do that, I just like to do it so I make sure that the tarp itself is nice and flat and it's in the right position. So next thing I'm going to do is take the peg out from the back corner and come in one loop and then peg that out. Then do the same from the other corner, come in one loop and peg that out. Now from the corner you want to come up the side one loop and peg that out on both sides. When you do that, you can take your two temporary pegs on the corners, take them out, and we'll use them elsewhere. Now you'll notice the corners of the tarp will be loose, so you can tuck them underneath. Now when it comes to the front, you've got your corner peg there. You want to take this corner and peg it next to this loop here. One loop in. So what I do, I just put my hand on this second loop in, bring this loop to my hand, and then peg it down. I'll do the same the other side. Now you notice so the front now will be a lot of slack. So this is where you want your walking pole. Now if you haven't got a walking pole, obviously you can cut a stick. The only thing I'd say is make sure there's nothing sharp on the top. We're just going to rest on the top. So what you want to do is put your top of your walking stick, the second loop in, running down the middle. Now you want to extend your pole until it's nice and tight. So now you've got your pole in place. Bloody hell, behave yourselves. You want to come down one loop from the centre and then peg that down to the back. Now the next thing you want to do, this loop which is under your pole, just to brace it off, you're going to get a guideline right. I'm going to use a jungle knot. And a bit of extra, I like to do this front loop on the entrance. Pass your line underneath that as well, and then peg that out, nice and tight. As you can see, there's plenty of room, but I just want to pull out this back a bit. So I can either use my second pole, or I tie a guy line from this loop on the outside and pull that up. So there we are, tarp tent. Loads of room for one person and a kit, even two people. Yeah, as long as they're friends. That's a great setup. If you want to get rid of the poles, you can use a ridge line or an external A-frame on the outside. But this is quick and easy, especially if the weather is turning for the worse. You can quickly get this on the ground, peg out a few loops, put your pole in, bloody hell, and then Bob's your auntie Jim, you've got a shelter. Yes, it's open at the front, but it's not a huge opening to get in and out of. Bloody behave yourselves. In the summertime, if there's midges about, you will need a head net, because obviously they can get in through the entrance, which I found out a few times. But apart from that, a really good, quick and easy shelter to put up, using your 3x3 tarp. Right, let's quickly take this down before the heavens open. Right, so there we are guys. There's a little bit about the new TRC outdoors tarps, plus utilising their pegs and the jungle knot systems as well. But like I said before, great company, veteran owned, UK made, great products. I haven't quite put that back in the bag as it came, but it fits in this dry sack very well. So very impressed with the tarps, love the colour. 3x3 tarp, brilliant bit of kit, very useful. Let's say loads of different configurations, they were just a few. Like I said before, I'm showcasing them for the first time at the Bushcraft show, so if you want to get your hands on one, come and see us. And if you do want tickets to the Bushcraft show and you want 15% off, use that code. And I'm sure I'll be selling them in the shop after that as well. So that's it, guys. That's the video. So if you haven't done so already, please think about liking and subscribing. Hit the notification bell. And if you do want to see some more videos, check that one out and that one. And I'll catch you again next time. All the best.